Welcome to Maxwell Shellfish. We're going to take you guys behind the scenes today so you can learn a little bit more about our family business.
I'm John Maxwell. I'm the owner-proprietor of Maxwell Shellfish, LLC.
My name is Kim Maxwell, and I'm married to John, who is fifth-generation bayman.
I'm Don Maxwell, 94 years of age, and I've done nothing but work around the bays and rivers.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Maxwell, and I am sixth-generation oyster farmer and bayman. I'm Bridget Bliss, and I am also sixth-generation oyster farmer and bayman. And then here we have our seventh generation. This is baby Maxwell Bliss. We're a small family-run fish market here in Port Republic. We're here 4 days a week, Thursday through Sunday. We have extended hours on Friday nights for you guys to come by and enjoy our raw bar. So that was my shameless plug, but I would love to bring you inside so you guys can learn a little bit more about our business, give you a little quick tour, and hopefully you'll learn something. So we have two cases here in our fish shop. This case right here, this is our prepped case. Everything that you see in there is prepared by my sister or my mom. Everything is our homemade recipes passed down from our family. Some of our most popular sellers are our crab cakes. In addition to that, we do Clams Casino, which is one of, I think, Bridget's personal favorite, is the Clams Casino. So this is our fresh fish case. This side of the case, we try to keep all local stuff, so we always get our scallops out of Barnegat Light, we get our fluke, our flounder local as well, and the tuna comes offshore. Everything else in the case comes in fresh. We know exactly where it comes from. The only things we ever get in frozen are our shrimp, because they're processed on the boats down in the Gulf. The only thing we carry that is farm raised is the organic salmon. The reason we carry it, it's sashimi grade, it's sustainable, low density stocking, and small family business over there as well. We typically we try to get in as much local stuff as we possibly can. Different things will rotate throughout the summer. Sometimes we get swordfish, tilefish, mako. Just kind of depends what the boats are kind of bringing in, and we kind of make our decisions from there. We get soft shell crabs when they're in season. Local perch is great. That's caught right out here in the bay. These are actually locally grown flowers out of New Gretna, so we do really try to source as much local stuff as we possibly can. This is from Leap A Farms at New Gretna, and we love working with them, and the flowers are absolutely gorgeous. But I'll take you over here to our freezer. This is one of our favorite things in here are our clam chowders. We have red clam chowder, we have white clam chowder, and we actually do carry a clam pie, which I know sounds like a weird thing, but it is an old-fashioned family recipe that's been passed down from our grandmother. So my sister always tries to recreate that and keep it in stock. She's put her new spin on things as well. So we have lobster mac and cheese, we have cheesy crab dip. We also have a seafood pot pie, which has our local scallops and our local flounder in it, along a lot of times with some Icelandic cod or Alaskan halibut, just depending on the season. We also carry clams and oysters. That is our main thing that our business covers. So we have our local clams out of Dry Bay, and then of course our Graveling Point oysters out of Great Bay.
I'm John Maxwell. I'm the owner-proprietor of Maxwell Shellfish, LLC. Pretty familiar with the Tuckerton Seaport. My grandfather was Curtis Maxwell. My father's Donald Maxwell. My other grandfather was Joe Dayton. The boats are named after both the grandfathers. That's the Joe Dayton. That's the Curtis Maxwell. Joe Dayton is the sawmill guy. Actually, I went to the sawmill when I was a little boy. It was over in Parkertown. And my grandmother and grandfather lived there. That's where my mother's from. I've been on the water since 1963. The Maxwells were related to the Allens, and my dad's mother's family was Allens. So like Allen's Clam Bar and stuff, they're all cousins. I kind of grew up in the business. It's all I kind of ever really wanted to do when I was a kid. I used to play in a box, pretend it was a boat when I was, you know. So yeah, I was hooked bad right off the bat. So my family had been in it. I kind of got in it. I've stayed in it. I took over from my father. We were at Oyster Creek, and in 1981, done all types of iterations of what we've done. I mean, about every 6 to 10 years, the business changes, and you got to change with it. And so when I first started, we were at Oyster Creek, like I said. I clammed, and I bought clams. and bought and sold them. Did that. We did that up here. The first few years we were up here, it was phenomenal. We had clams stacked almost up to where the heater hangs down up in there. I mean, it was incredible. So we were handling so much stuff that I actually never went on the water. I just stayed in here selling stuff all the time. I mean, like on the phone. So we would have trucks come in from Long Island, Rhode Island. We'd send stuff to Pennsylvania, Philly, New York, and we were filling air freight containers that were flying to the West Coast, and even a truck that would go to San Francisco, and just a lot of we did a lot of business when we first started there. I did the little clams for a number of years. I had a facility in Atlantic City that we did it at, and also a support facility down in the Carolinas, and then in Virginia too. So what we would do is we would like have the clams spawn, we'd grow them out, and then we'd go plant them out in the bay. It was a lot of work, man. I'll tell you what. It was just a lot of work. The girls used to call me Uncle John because my niece came over and stayed with us and said, "Hey, Uncle John." The girls, I was never home. So trying to run that in the wholesale place, it was a lot. So I kind of got out of the little clam business, and we started doing oysters, what my family had done before. But it was a big learning curve how we got into it. So the boat behind us is the Captain Curtis Maxwell. That's a Deltaville boat, built boat that was built in Virginia, which my father had bought down there. It was built down there, and they're typically supposed to be an open hull and with a cabin up front. My dad's decided to deck it over and build it in the traditional sort of way that was been up here and in Delaware Bay. The other boat over on the other side of the dock, Captain Joe Dayton, that's a little different in that that's built more like a Chesapeake Bay boat that is like, you know, for potting crabs and that type of thing. And actually there we dredge oysters over the stern. We're here at the midships on the Captain Maxwell. And Dad set that up. He said he knew what he was doing. I've taken as many as like 3 on the little boat. I've taken as many as 4 and 5 on the big boat. I've also done the little boat by myself, and I've done the big boat by myself too, as a matter of fact. Now I think about it, but usually the big boat we usually just take a couple people. You know, it's usually the captain. I finally graduated to captain when I turned about 60. You know, just because my dad is still alive. He lives up in Smithville now in a retirement community. So yeah, he's still around. Yeah, we're on Nacote Creek, and this is a tributary of the Mullica River. Oysters need like the right salinity, and they need more of a freshwater type thing. Clams like it, like really salty. And you know, oysters can go. They more or less spawn in freshwater, and so we have areas here in the Mullica that we put shell down for clutch, and oysters will spawn and attach to it. They have to have something to attach to it. Clams don't have to do that. Clams can just lay in the mud. So, but they won't grow up to fruition in freshwater. They have to kind of go to be moved from there to saltwater. So that's typically what we do. We move it from clams from the river down into Great Bay, and pretty much around Graveling Point. And there they'll kind of take off. I'm a public officer, so what that is I'm the Atlantic County designee to the New Jersey Shellfisheries Council, and I've been that designee since I think 2001. And I also serve on the Marine Fisheries Council, which I still do, still active with that stuff. My father had been on the Shellfish Council too. I'm actually the 4th generation of my family to serve on it. You can look at it 2 ways. It's like, oh, we've been here a long time, we've never figured out how to get out of it. You know, that's the other thing I think it might be. That might be more key, you know what I mean? No, you know, Bridget, and they both go to school, right? And so she worked as a baker, and she actually did make a damn good maple bacon donut. It was pretty good. It was impressive. And I said, you don't want to give that up. And she says, oh, Daddy, I don't know, can I work with you for a while? I said, okay, what the hell. So she did, right? Actually, it was quite fun. It was, Bridget and I together was a lot of fun. We did, we used to play, we would have the radio or a CD in. We used to dance and stuff on the back and everything. And then Gretchen says, "You guys are having too much fun. I want to come." You know? And she came to work with us too. And then we actually worked a lot. We caught quite a few oysters with the big boat. We did that for a few years. Anyway, so they both started coming. We actually had a lot of fun together, you know, and we caught and sold a lot of oysters, and it was fun. It was good working with them like that, and you know, everything was going along great till Bridget starts having kids like every year now. She has a baby every summer now, you know. So when she started doing that, we had to slow this up. The best thing is you get to work with everybody, and you know, and when it's good, it's real good. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of being together. What's the worst thing? You're working with your family, man. You know, you can't fire them. They're kin to you. You know, it's like, what are you going to do? You know, if you fire them, where are they going to go? So it's like, but yeah, no, it definitely has its challenges. But to be honest with you, to be in business for yourself, you really got to be an optimist once you want to do it. You know, so actually, I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I always tell them, you know, if you're not failing at stuff, you're not trying. The biggest threats to anything here, especially on the water in New Jersey, is the warming water temperatures. Gee whiz, man, the changes I've seen in the stuff that we see in the water now that we didn't have before when I was a kid, the fish that we have up here, I mean, gee whiz. We're writing cobia regulations on the marine fisheries side of stuff. Cobia was like a Florida fish, you know, and so we have most of the mid-Atlantic fish species are up here now. Kim and I worked together for right when we first got married. You know, we worked together like that. She helped me in the wholesale business for a number of years before we started doing the retail. So she was a big help with that, and I really, to be honest with you, she did a lot of it.
My name is Kim Maxwell, and I'm married to John, who is 5th generation bayman. Well, years ago, John, I started out with the retail store with literally there was nothing in here, and I would just sell clams. I'd help John, he'd unload the boats, and I'd run them through a machine we called the culling machine, which would grade the different sized clams. And people would just pop in to see what this was about, and then I started selling them clams. And I remember saying to John, you know, we could really do something here, so we should really try to, you know, see if we can start a little retail store. Well, he didn't really want to hear much about it because he was so focused on wholesale that was his focus. He needed to just concentrate on that. But eventually, we did finally buy a display case, and I would come down, and it was very limited. I didn't have any advertising, it was word of mouth. And I would come down here and I don't even know who I ordered stuff from, but I would order seafood, and it was pre-packaged tuna, pre-packaged whatever, and it was in these vacuum packs. I had to thaw them out and then put them on this metal, they looked awful, but a metal tray. And I'd bring books, and I'd sit out and I'd sit there all day long just reading. And Bridget's right, she would come down and she'd visit with me or hang out with me. And but eventually, as time went on, he started to see more and more people coming in, and so he was more apt to, okay, well, what else do you want to do here? So I had ideas, and we did get another case, and it started to grow. Bridget then came on board, really working for John, but she would help me out with the retail store. And then, I don't know, a few years later, Gretchen started with us. She had worked for another company and then decided she was finished with that and she wanted to join in with the family business, and she's the one who really took this to another level. Everything that you see here we make ourselves, with the exception of the whiting and the smoked salmon. They're pretty much mostly my recipes, a few are Bridget's, and I taught her how to do them. One of them, the clam pie, is my mother-in-law's, what she used to make, so that goes way back. I take a lot of different recipes and I play with them until I find something that I like, and then I let my family try it, and if everybody's on board, then we introduce it and see how it goes. The chowders we do ourselves. We do literally everything from scratch. I shuck 1,000 clams, literally 1,000 chowders, or the girls, and we'll shuck them all, and we grind them or chop them, and we make everything. Salmon cakes, that's probably the latest one that came on. It was a little slow going at first, but I think they take off a lot. We sell, well, most everything. Our crab cakes are big sellers. The salmon cakes now are big sellers. Stuffed flounder, clams casino, they're all pretty big. I will say the clam casino recipe is a recipe I did get from a gentleman that I worked with years ago in Philadelphia when I worked. Well, yeah.
That is my recipe.
Okay, that's hers. Well, it must be hers now, but it was originally mine that I got. Charlie Barker was a man that I worked with years ago at Blue Cross, and he knew I was getting married to John, and we had a clamming business, and he goes, it was the sweetest old guy, and he gave me this little card. He said, my wife wrote this down, and this is a wonderful, clam casino recipe that we use all the time. So I came across it looking for recipes, and then that's how I started originally. John's father, which he'll probably tell you, he ran in the business for a number of years. John helped him and worked, but then again, we were at Oyster Creek. When John and I got married, which was in 1987, they had just built this building. He was still working out of Oyster Creek, but then we moved up here, and like I said, his mind was really focused on wholesale because that's all he knew. That's what the family did. When I came in, like I said, I still see potential here for something more. And John is a very careful, thrifty, thinking man. And I always cooked, always had family functions, so a lot of the recipes, that's my love language, feeding people, and I should have been Italian. And so anyway, she did the same. She came in and started learning different recipes, and most of the time, like I said, she was going out working with John on the boats, but she would help me in the retail, and I would show her how to make the soup, or how do you do both chowders. And Gretchen went to school for marketing, but then one day she just talked to her dad and said, I think I want to come work for the business. And I'm glad she did, because she really did take it again to another level. That's why you guys are here.
I'm Don Maxwell, 94 years of age, and I've done nothing but work around the bays and rivers practically all my life, except the time I was at the surface in the Army overseas. And that's about it. I've done it all: oyster, clamming, crabbing, fishing, netting, everything. You had to make a living. Yeah, it was a pleasure. It was really a pleasure. Grandfather Allen, he did it. That's all he ever did. And then my father, he was a very remarkable man. He could do anything. He could overhaul an engine, and he built numerous boats. 40-footers went outside, head boats, Garveys. I remember in the Depression, he used to build a 26-foot Garvey and sit it outside there. We lived in New Gretna right on Route 9. $125. Brand new, it's all sealed. You'd do anything to make a living in those days. But we did good deal. Like that, plenty to eat, warm clothes to wear. So it worked out. Tuckerton was known as Clam Town in the old days. And practically everybody around this area, especially in Tuckerton, the main economy was the bay. Everything else they did was sidelines. But like the River store come in, the dry goods store, they catered to baymen. And everything come out of the bay. At one time, Tuckerton was a big oyster producing area. Something happened. They cut a canal through. Whenever you screw around with nature, you foul things up. They changed everything, the environment, the oyster needs. Oysters have to come from a body of fresh water. Raised out in the salt water, you got to have them in the saltwater bay for them to grow. But they have to be fed by nutrients coming out of a river somewhere. But we still got a area. We have the Mullica River. We have these creeks, fresh water going down, and we don't have any development. The business? Well, that came about because I got old. When you get old, you can't do the things you used to do. So my son come along, he practically did the same thing I did. He went to school. I went to the GI Bill and be an accountant. I worked on it about 6 weeks. So this isn't for me. And I don't know, he tried a little bit. He came with me, and I didn't want him to because I thought it was a failing business, which it turned out to be in some respects. They're my granddaughters, and they're John's daughters. We had never had any sons. We used them on the boat for quite a while. So I said, "Now look, that's no place for a girl out here on this boat shoveling oysters." So they got this business started, this business up in here. They love it. And they do well. And so that's what we're doing. Retail. It's like a storekeeping operation. What it used to be. It's unbelievable. I mean, I don't see what it used to be. So I just hang around, eat 3 meals a day, sleep good, eat all I want, enjoy myself.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Maxwell, and I am 6th generation oyster farmer and bayman. I'm Bridget Bliss, and I am also 6th generation oyster farmer and bayman. So I remember when I came on full time at Maxwell Shellfish, I remember one of my first days, I started right after 4th of July, and one of my first days we did something called shelling. What shelling is basically you get like a big tractor and you just fill it full of shells, and then you dump those shells onto our boat, and then you do about like 10 loads of that, and the whole time like I'm just there with a shovel, and then you just go out into the bay or like in the river and just shovel those shells over. So you do that trip about like 3 times. So that was my first like day on the boat as like a full-time wholesale employee. And I remember that night laying down in bed, not being able to move, and my hands were straight up purple. Like the next morning I woke up, my hands were straight purple, and I was like, well, I've made a terrible mistake. Like, I don't know, now I'm stuck here. There wasn't a lot of going easy on us as far as like, well, you still need to shovel just as much, you still need to do all this stuff. Like, but for me, realizing like, oh, my dad or my grandfather, they're like over 6 feet tall and like much larger. And so the way that they're going to dump the dredges and the way they're going to shovel, like, I can't do it like that. So I would have to kind of figure it out on my own. Like, okay, this is kind of the way I have to like maneuver it. This is the way I have to do it myself. And like, meanwhile, you have like these 2 older guys yelling at you the whole time. Like, this isn't the way to do it. And you're like, stop it. This is the way I do it. Like, so.
I will say at the same time though, I think like there was the capacity for them to, I think they did kind of go easy in the beginning, because if you remember, it was like, it took a lot to tell them, hey, I can use both dredges at the same time.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You don't need to just do one dredge. Like, I can handle both of them going on at the same time, because he would do that on the big boat where he would just drop the one dredge. And I think it took a while for him to trust the fact that you were like, no.
Like, I'm capable of that.
I'm capable of doing both.
Yeah, and then once we did it, and like it was a fine day and I used both dredges, he was like, this whole time you've been playing me, you've been pretending you can't do this. I was like, that's on you. You wouldn't let me. Like, for him, like, he was tied to the boat when he was 7, and for us it was like, I felt like I really had to pester him to get on the water, because he was very much like,
I
See
think
what else
too,
you can
he's
do.
very much like, he's a dad. So it's like, okay, these are my little girls who nobody thought they were going to end up here, and we're happy that they're here. But he personally is like, he knows the dangers of what it's like out there. He's been hurt. He's had issues. You know what I mean? So I think it's kind of that balance of like, we need to get all this stuff done, but it's not necessarily even the female as well, probably, because I think if he had sons, it would be.
Yeah, they would have been tied to the boat at 7.
Yeah. But I do think there is that level of like, okay, like, let's just like, I don't want to see my little girls get hurt out here.
I think one of the things was my dad always really encouraged us to go out, try to find something else that we were really passionate about, go to school. I don't want to say like don't be here, but like he really encouraged us to try other things and like see what else was out there. And I don't think you did either, like really ever felt pressure to be here. I always just thought what my dad and my grandfather did was so cool. And I just thought it was like the most interesting job, and just like being able to see, they would come home in the middle of the day, like get lunch and then go back out, and they always like had that like bay smell on them, and I just like loved it, and I thought it was like the coolest thing in the world. And so I always like had this as my dream job, like to work out on the water was my dream job.
I think it's interesting too, coming from a perspective where like my dad owning this business and like seeing my grandfather doing this and all of that, like you kind of see like this fluidity and flexibility in a schedule, but you also see extremely hard work. And I think there's something about that when you go to college and you're expected to do a 9 to 5, and like everybody kind of tells you like this is sort of what you need to do, and you go, oh yeah, okay, that's what I'm gonna do, and then you do it and you get your butt in the seat in front of the computer for like 40 hours a week, and you think, well, am I ever gonna see like the light of day on a Tuesday ever again, or am I just going to be like in this office? And I think like just seeing what we saw growing up with my dad, like having this like, it was difficult, don't get me wrong, he worked really, really, really long hours, and he would plan vacations for us, and we never knew if we were actually going to go on vacation until we were actually there, because the weather might change, or like the clammers didn't bring in what they were supposed to, or like everything, right? So everything was incredibly fluid, and as much as that was a blessing, it was also a curse.
It gives you like a lot of like power over your own day-to-day life.
I think that's one of the things too. I feel like Bridget has a very like romantic answer about like, my dad smelled like the bay, and like, oh, it's like my childhood and that's what I want. And I'm like, I just like the fact that I have like this flexibility and like almost endless opportunity, because when you have a business and like it's kind of like, I mean, it's not been like handed to us yet, but we're obviously incredibly involved in kind of figuring out like where it's headed. I think there's just this like, there's no kind of limit on what you can do. There's this endless amount of creativity and stuff. And so I think while like there's a lot of obstacles that can be put in your way for like, yes, I want to expand in this manner, and like maybe you need to find a workaround, or maybe you need to find this or find that. Ultimately, like she was saying, at the end of the day, like if you put in the effort and you can figure out those avenues that work for you, it's just like doors open, and it's so exciting. The way that we even function and do business is vastly different from when we started just a few years ago.
Oh yeah.
So, like, fun working with family. Well, fun is a relative term, but like
it is fun. It's other things, but it's also fun. That's one of them. I would only want my kids to do it if they want to. It'd be nice, but at the same time, I don't want them to ever feel pressure to do something that they like feel is like if it was like a burden on them. And if they like are really passionate about something else, like I want them to do that. I also want them to be proud of kind of like where they came from. One of the things I really like about what we do is we get to know people like in the town and in the community, and that has been really fun. I feel like I keep saying community, but it's just been like really neat how when you said like, will I ever see sunshine on like a Tuesday afternoon? Like I really love that if I'm like around our town on a Tuesday afternoon, I can be like, oh hey, like I know these people, and like I don't know, it's just really cool to like actually be involved and be like, oh, I'm part of my town and like our community that we have here.
Yeah, I feel like we just have this dream of like, I think this is like the start of it, right? Like I think having the community kind of being able to be out here a little bit and doing the raw bar and stuff like that. So I think that there is a thing where we just love the idea of people gathering around like really good food and like just enjoying like the area, each other's company, So to me, I think expanding this in like a really meaningful way with maybe being able to like actually serve a little bit more and kind of like open up in that aspect. So I think it's also finding something that like this like really appreciating our history and where we came from, but also very much like saying like that's awesome and we like love that and we want to honor that, but like what do we want?
Yeah.
And like how do we make it work for us?